Sammy Davis Jr. names the 5 singers he hated performing with, and wait till you hear who tops his blacklist. He once swore she could outglare a searchlight. Spotlights explode over a jam-packed Vegas stage, brass sections roar, and one 5'5" dynamo whirls through tap riffs that make the parquet shiver. Seconds later, he bows beside Frank Sinatra, smiling like the world's friendliest showman. Yet inside, a lockbox of grudges clicks shut. Remember the golden age of live reviews? Floor-length mink coats, cigarette smoke curling beneath chandeliers, and stars so colossal they needed double-width marquee letters. But behind that glitter, rivalries festered like hidden fuse wires. Why did Sammy, Mr. Candyman, the ultimate crowd pleaser, privately despise certain duet partners? Which backstage insults detonated lifelong vendettas? Before we pry open his secret notebook, hit that subscribe bell if you breathe vintage gossip and brace yourself, because the man who juggled race, religion, and Rat Pack royalty is about to spill names he never forgave. Are you ready to judge the judge's judge? Long before the feuds, before tuxedo cuffs soaked in gin and applause, Samuel George Davis Jr. materializes in Harlem's vaudeville wing circa December 8, 1925. His father, Sammy Sr., leads the Will Maston trio with military precision. His mother, Elvira Baby Sanchez, kicks Charleston steps with ruthless, jaw-dropping precision that could make Broadway directors weep. Emphasis weep. Tiny Sammy toddles on stage at 3, tambourine in hand, and the crowd erupts. Proof that some destinies stomp their own neon path from the moment they draw breath. Childhood becomes a cross-country blur of Pullman cars, threadbare boarding houses where cockroaches scuttle across peeling wallpaper, and applause-rich but cash-poor tours that stretch from Detroit's Paradise Theater to Los Angeles' Orpheum. By 8, he can predict audience laughs down to the second. By 11, he mimics trumpet solos with nothing but whistle and tap, his feet speaking jazz fluency that would make Miles Davis himself nod approval. Off-stage, he studies racial etiquette like battlefield maps. He must charm, never challenge, always dance around the landmines of segregated America. Every bow I take keeps a door from slamming, he later reflects to journalist friends who marvel at his political tightrope walking. The Depression years carve steel into his spine. Theaters close like dominoes, vaudeville circuits crumble, yet the Will Maston trio persists through sheer locomotive determination and Sammy's unprecedented ability to transform any stage into a 3-ring circus of rhythm, comedy, and heart-stopping musicianship. He learns 17 instruments, masters 6 languages, and develops an uncanny gift for impersonation that will later make him the most versatile entertainer in American history. 1943. Teenage Sammy hoofs through segregated USO camps, his patent leather shoes slapping defiance against wooden stages while soldiers hoot approval and Jim Crow commanders force him to eat in kitchens like hired help. Emphasis hired. He counters humiliation with rib-rattling jokes, forging a spine of stainless ambition that refuses to bend under the weight of systematic racism that would have crushed lesser spirits into powder. Post-war America thirsts for crossover charisma, and Sammy delivers it in avalanches. He splits billboards with Mickey Rooney, croons on Ed Sullivan with the confidence of a man who knows he belongs in every living room across the nation, and steals scenes in 1956's Mr. Wonderful on Broadway with such electric magnetism that critics run out of superlatives. Hollywood critics hail him a ruthless rhythm miracle, yet every handshake reminds him of doors slammed for his skin color and faith. The 1954 car crash that costs him his left eye becomes a twisted blessing. By 1961, he converts to Judaism after intensive study, quipping with characteristic wit, "I figure God has a sense of humor. He saved the only black one-eyed Jew in showbiz." Enter the Rat Pack, that legendary boys' club of booze, broads, and box office gold. Sinatra crowns him kid with paternal affection. Dean Martin supplies rivers of scotch and endless cigarettes, and Las Vegas hotels reluctantly erase colored entrance signs, but only if the trio performs and brings in those crucial gambling dollars. Sammy drinks ovations while hecklers hiss slurs from roulette tables, their poison mixing with cigarette smoke and spilled martinis. Yet he parries hate with high-voltage grace, routinely tossing jokes into bigotry's face like grenades wrapped in silk. Love life? Dazzling and battered like a prizefighter's resume. In 1957, he secretly dates white Swedish actress Mai Britt, sending Columbia boss Harry Cohn into apoplectic rage. Cohn allegedly calls mob friends to discourage the romance with methods that would make cement shoes seem gentle. Studio guards insist Sammy receives a bullet-stuffed coffin as a Christmas present that year. The relationship survives, leading to marriage in 1960, but the constant death threats and social ostracism turn their love story into a siege warfare that ultimately claims 3 children and 1 very public divorce. Then comes November 19, 1954, the head-on collision on Route 66 that changes everything. Emphasis everything. Glass shards sliced through his face like crystal razors. 1 agonizing surgery later, Sammy wakes minus his left eye, his depth perception shattered, his confidence temporarily demolished. Instead of retreating into self-pity, he jokes the glass prosthetic matches Hollywood's fake smiles perfectly. Yet that trauma brands a ledger of slights onto his memory, faces of singers whose off-pitch cruelty swallowed his legendary patience like quicksand. Politics complicate the portrait with technicolor contradictions. He campaigns tirelessly for JFK, believing Democrats represent civil rights progress, then stuns liberal pals by bear-hugging Richard Nixon at the 1972 Republican convention, proclaiming loyalty to whoever lets me walk through the front door like a human being. Newspapers howl betrayal. Fellow black entertainers accuse him of selling out. Sammy shrug dances through headlines, tap shoes clicking Morse code, adapt or perish, survive or disappear. Addictions lurk backstage like hungry shadows. Nicotine stains his fingers yellow. Whiskey numbs the daily indignities, and the ruthless tempo of 300 night tour calendars turns his body into a percussion instrument played too hard for too long. He charters private jets dubbed the Freedom Bird to dodge racist motels that won't rent rooms to successful black entertainers, bankrolls telethons that raise millions for muscular dystrophy research, yet hemorrhages cash into divorces, IRS maelstroms, and a voracious entourage that calls itself the family while bleeding him dry. Creative peaks keep soaring like Roman candles against dark skies. Album Sammy Davis Jr. sings the big ones for young lovers. Net's Gold certification. Broadway comeback Golden Boy smashes box office records and proves his dramatic acting chops. A controversial cameo on All in the Family triggers record ratings and shows America that Sammy can navigate racial comedy without losing dignity. He learns to impersonate 200 celebrities, from Humphrey Bogart's whiskey rasp to Pope Paul VI's benediction cadence, because, he explains to Johnny Carson, if they won't invite me in one role, I'll crash the party as everyone. The 1970s bring disco fever, and Sammy adapts with characteristic agility, recording The Candy Man and watching it climb to #1 while critics dismiss it as commercial pandering. Emphasis pandering. He doesn't care. Money is freedom, fame is ammunition against racism, and success is the sweetest revenge against every door that ever slammed in his face. By the 1980s, throat cancer ambushes his velvet baritone like a sniper's bullet. Friends recall him whispering hoarsely, "The voice quits, the rhythm stays forever." He books chemotherapy sessions between casino residencies, refusing pity or special treatment, determined to tap dance with death until his final curtain call. Would you waltz with mortality just to squeeze one last standing ovation from a crowd that might not remember your name tomorrow? All those battles, betrayals, and backstage bloodbaths carved a blacklist into his memory, a secret catalog of performers whose cruelty cut deeper than any racist heckler's slurs. Late in life, during a rare moment of vulnerability at Cedars-Sinai Hospital, he finally opened his private notebook and revealed the shocking truth. Here are the 5 singers who broke my heart worse than segregation ever could. Frank Sinatra, chairman of ICE. The Riviera Hotel, Vegas, 1963. Rehearsal turns vicious when Sinatra growls that Sammy's elaborate tap routine eats my spotlight time like a starving animal. Witnesses claim Frank allegedly flicked cigarette ash onto Sammy's patent leather shoe, sneering with cold precision, "Kid, know your lane and stay in it." Biographers document that the Rat Pack bond was equal parts bromance and brutal hierarchy. Frank booked the gigs and collected the lion's share. Sammy swallowed the scraps while smiling for photographers. Dean Martin once joked to reporters, "Frank owns the room. Sammy rents by the minute like a parking meter." Emphasis meter. Studio insiders say Sinatra personally vetoed a planned duet on A Man and His Music because audiences love my crooning, not his circus cartwheels. During one Lake Tahoe engagement, hotel staff recollect Sammy banished to a separate dressing trailer so Frank could meditate in spiritual silence. The cruelest cut came during civil rights protests in 1965, when Sammy begged Frank to publicly endorse Dr. King's Selma March. Sinatra reportedly snarled, "I sing love songs. I don't sermonize about politics." The chill never thawed, even when both men shared stages for charity events where their chemistry felt forced and artificial. Friendship ain't supposed to come with a leash and a muzzle, Sammy allegedly sighed to his valet years later, watching Sinatra's limousine disappear into Vegas neon. Tiny sting. A king's crown can cut the ones who polish it daily, and the next name wore silk gloves hiding razor-sharp claws. Ella Fitzgerald, Velvet Guillotine. Picture 1958. Smoke curls over a packed Harlem benefit concert, chandeliers trembling under the weight of musical history being made. Ella's scat fireworks reverberate through crystal and mahogany, but backstage she whispers poisonously that Sammy's theatrical showboating turns sacred jazz into cheap carnival entertainment. Crew members claim she personally nixes a planned shared encore by telling shell-shocked promoters, "One novelty act per night is quite sufficient, thank you." Their public rivalry hides under mutual compliments on record sleeves and magazine interviews, a diplomatic dance more complex than any of Sammy's tap routines. Emphasis complex. Yet Billboard columnists notice patterns during joint tours where Ella's ironclad contract demands solo closing numbers whenever Sammy appears earlier on the bill. During a 1961 European swing through London, Paris, and Rome, she allegedly refuses to board the same luxury motor coach, murmuring to her manager, "I require absolute silence for vocal preparation, not tap earthquakes and constant chatter." Years later, a prestigious London charity gala attempts pairing them for an intimate duet of My Funny Valentine. Ella arrives fashionably late, changes the key down 2 challenging steps without warning, a subtle musical sabotage that leaves Sammy vocally stranded like a ship without anchor, forcing him to improvise desperately while she smiles beatifically. "She sliced me sweet and clean like birthday cake laced with cyanide and served with sterling silver," Sammy reportedly confided to jazz critic Leonard Feather during a late-night phone conversation. Lesson learned. Praise can suffocate tighter than outright criticism when delivered with surgical precision, and our next culprit abandoned subtlety for full-throttle strangulation. Jerry Lewis, Volcanic Vaudevillian. Las Vegas, September, 1970. Lewis, sweating profusely through slapstick rehearsals for his annual muscular dystrophy telethon, suddenly roars that Sammy's black Jewish identity is nothing more than a calculated gimmick designed to milk sympathy. Horrified witnesses recall Lewis smashing a prop stool against the stage wall, shouting with unhinged fury, "This is supposed to be comedy, not a goddamn civil rights lecture." Sammy retaliates with characteristic brilliance during the live broadcast. He hijacks Lewis's donation microphone, tap dancing gracefully across camera cables while personally donating $10,000 in crisp $100 bills that he fans like playing cards. Emphasis fans. Tabloids scream, "Duel of the Donators" in 72-point headlines. The spontaneous on-air footage becomes telethon legend, replayed annually, but Lewis secretly bans the clip from official reruns and highlight reels. Behind velvet curtains, accountants whisper that Jerry's volcanic ego counts stage minutes like Wall Street money. He accidentally schedules commercial breaks precisely over Sammy's planned segments, claims excessive stage width for adequate pratfall clearance, and once maliciously swapped Sammy's custom drum intro for honking clown horns that turned his entrance into circus mockery. Industry insiders say Lewis even personally vetoed Sammy's planned cameo in The Nutty Professor rewrite, quipping to studio executives, "Two certified crazies spoil the comedic soup. Audiences can only digest one lunatic at a time." Jerry joked like nitroglycerin, "Hilarious fun until the inevitable explosion destroys everything nearby." Sammy quipped to Tonight Show producers. Tiny sting. Laughter should lift spirits skyward, not immolate friendships. Yet the following nemesis specialized in digging ashes for applause. Fun fact, a young Stanley Kubrick was once kicked off this very set during the chaos. Shirley Bassey. Dynamo Dragon. London's prestigious talk of the town, winter 1975. Bassey belts Goldfinger in an ear-splitting key change when Sammy innocently walks backstage for sound check. She stops mid-phrase, eyes blazing like Welsh dragon fire, hissing with territorial fury. Only one cyclone performs on stage tonight, and it certainly won't be some American tap-dancing tourist. Sound technicians swear she later cranks her backing track volume to window-rattling levels specifically to drown Sammy's tender ballad, "What Kind of Fool Am I?" during his scheduled set. Emphasis, scheduled British tabloids feast on the drama. Bassey allegedly demands her spotlight gels remain pure molten gold, leaving Sammy performing in dim cobalt haze that makes him nearly invisible to audiences paying premium prices. At the Royal Variety Performance 1978, Bassey's grand entrance halts dress rehearsal completely. She imperiously orders Sammy's custom tap board removed from the stage, fearing its percussive vibrations will peel the paint off my money notes and ruin my vocal precision. Sammy, furious but professional, improvises a stunning tap solo directly on the Prince of Wales's polished marble floor, leaving intricate scuff patterns that Palace staff photograph for historical posterity. The final insult comes when Bassey's management demands separate dressing room trailers, claiming her artistic process requires complete isolation from disruptive influences and excessive noise pollution. Her high notes could melt chromium bumpers and freeze lifelong friendships solid as Arctic ice, Sammy muses to London theater critics. Moral twist, power chords thrill-paying crowds, yet silence backstage conversations permanently. Wait till you meet the final voice on this venomous list. Sammy labeled him radioactive velvet wrapped around concrete prejudice. Harry Belafonte. Calypso Conscience. Carnegie Hall, March 1962. Belafonte's Caribbean lullabies float through the auditorium like warm trade winds carrying messages of social justice and musical purity. Sammy steps in with an explosive mambo medley, but Belafonte cornered him earlier in the green-carpeted dressing area, grumbling with righteous indignation that clownish tap dancing cheapens authentic black artistry and makes us all look like minstrel show refugees. Witnesses recall Sammy's trademark grin turning granite hard. Their ideological war spans turbulent decades. Belafonte marches courageously beside Dr. King through Alabama dust. Sammy controversially embraces Nixon's Republican promises of economic opportunity. Emphasis embraces. In 1972, a major charity gala schedules them back-to-back for maximum star power. Belafonte allegedly threatens complete withdrawal unless producers drop the token Republican who's betraying his own people. They scramble desperately. Sammy eventually opens the show to half-filled seats while Belafonte's supporters boycott outside. Banking on professional detente, Quincy Jones arranges an ambitious 1984 duet session for African famine relief. Rehearsal footage, never released to preserve reputations, reportedly shows Belafonte lecturing Sammy extensively on selling out your heritage for white approval, while Sammy retorts with increasing heat, "Protest songs don't pay my dancers rent or feed their children." The session implodes spectacularly when Sammy slaps a tambourine mid-rant, accidentally shattering a $3,000 Neumann microphone. The bitterest irony? Both men donate millions to civil rights causes, yet their personal warfare makes newspaper headlines that overshadow their charitable contributions. Harry's righteousness was louder than any drum solo, and twice as exhausting to endure for extended periods, Sammy confides to a sympathetic stagehand after another confrontation. Final sting. Shared heritage can split louder than foreign bias, and historical legacy often favors who learned forgiveness, not who was technically right about political choices. By the late 1980s, Sammy's body shrinks like old leather, but his legend swells to mythical proportions. He taps through chemotherapy sessions with determination that amazes medical staff, flipping hat tricks between IV drips like tiny declarations of immortality against cancer's advancing army. When throat cancer finally silences him on May 16, 1990, tributes flood international airwaves. Sinatra weeps openly on live radio. Belafonte pens a surprisingly tender editorial for the New York Times. Shirley Bassey mails a single gold rose with no accompanying card. So what echoes through entertainment history? A fascinating paradox. A man who brokered racial detente with humor, yet nursed ice-cold vendettas like vintage wine, who donated millions to children's hospitals yet hoarded grudges like secret trophies locked in emotional vaults, who survived systematic bigotry, multiple bankruptcies, and a blown-out eye, only to confess that polite applause could feel colder than shouted hatred from Klan rallies. Perhaps the lesson crystallizes thus. Raw talent dazzles temporarily, but personal dignity decides who haunts our private notebooks forever. And Sammy, ever the rhythm warrior dancing against impossible odds, kept his feet moving, even when emotional grudges limped behind him like stubborn shadows refusing to disappear. In the end, each enemy became another syncopated beat in his eternal tap cadence. Click, clack, forgive, forget, repeat, until the music stops. So the next time stage lights blind you with their merciless glare, ask yourself this crucial question. Whose names would you scribble in the darkness when nobody's watching? Now it's your turn to judge the entertainment judges. Which famous musical duet do you think ended in secret fury and lifelong resentment? Drop your wildest theories in the comments below. Punch that like button like a snare drum keeping perfect time, and lunge to subscribe if you crave more backstage secrets. Tomorrow we reveal Audrey Hepburn names the 9 fashion icons who copied her. And trust me, she wields stilettos like courtroom evidence in a copyright lawsuit. Stick around because the vintage gossip engine never sleeps, and neither should you. Click here to explore our complete Rat Pack Revelations playlist, because some secrets are too delicious to stay buried in Vegas desert sand. Thanks for watching, and remember, the show must go on, even when the performers can't stand each other.